let me talk through the 12 steps I take in drawing this tree that you're watching at double time normal speed. Now, I put a dot at the top of the foliage, a dot at some point in the center which corresponds to something that's happening in the tree for a reference point, and a dot at the ground, or where I think the ground's going to be. This helps me keep the tree overall in proportion. So start at the top, point 1, mark the center and the ground in dots. Point 2, point 3, I make marks around the tree foliage, the tree canopy sections, not lines. Lines are very unsympathetic for a realistic look. Exactly what marks I make, how I make them, depends on the tree, depends on the distance, depends on the leaves and how they are attached, and the lighting as well. But I'm thinking marks that create the effect of the silhouette. Fourth point is I always consider which branches are coming towards us and which ones are moving away from us. A common mistake is to draw all the branches as if they all come out on the left and right sides of the tree in a straight line to each other. Branches can come out in 360 degrees in most cases, and some of them often come straight towards us. So we need to understand the shape of the tree and the branches, because that tells us what parts of the canopy are coming towards us and what aren't. My fifth point is I draw the branches from the top down. That way, I don't end up with branches too thick, too close to the top edge of the canopy. So draw them from the top down. And the sixth point, I draw the closest branches first. I have a good look at the tangle of branches, if there's a tangle, and I work out what are the main ones that are closest to us that visually are in front of the other ones. I draw them first because, well, I can't draw them in front of the behind ones if I draw the behind ones first. And I want my tree to have a sense of realism. It also lets me emphasize some branches rather than others, which gives a sense of 3 dimensions. The seventh point is that I draw my branches in sections. You'll notice I don't do long snaky lines, one for one side of the branch and then one for the other. I find for most trees, long snaky slithering branches are actually not a very realistic look. So instead I do the sections, and I stop the sections where they twist and turn, and that lets me get a bit of a corner feel when necessary. My eighth point, the leaves, you'll see, I'm trying to capture the effect of the foliage. Now at this point, I actually haven't started doing a great deal with the leaves, but now you see I start to block in the leaves by, in effect, trying to capture the shadows with hatching and cross-hatching. Now, pine trees have their own distinct foliage effect. A lot of needles sticking up and sticking out. Depending on the pine tree, of course, some of them hang down limply. It just depends on the tree. But whatever effect I see visually in my reference or in front of me, if I'm on location, I want to try and capture that. If you're finding these points helpful, please hit the like button for me right now while you're watching the leaves, the foliage being done, before you forget. That would be a big help for me. And I have a playlist on trees and all things trees if you'd like to see any one of the things I've just mentioned and the ones yet to come in an individual video which just focuses on that one point. And also videos on many different types of trees, from very close up small ones to enormous ones from a distance, from oaks to palm trees to eucalyptus and everything in between. So you can see how I'm working on the leaf canopy, not trying to draw leaves, or in this case pine needles, but trying to see the essence of the shadows, on how the shadows are being cast by the underlying form, and then do hatch marks that will capture that effect. Now, my ninth point is with the branches, don't just make them more dark, and don't just put shadows on one side of everything. In a tree such as this, and in most trees, it's not just that there's shade on one side of the trunk or on branches, but that the foliage above, or sometimes other trees cast shadows on the branches as well. And these are often neglected. The easiest way to know where to cast the shadows on the trunks and on the branches is simply to look at the reference. Be aware that we need to look for them and to put them on the tree. When they're not put on the tree, it's the sort of absence that we don't always know what's the problem, but we can tell it's not quite right. When we do put the shadows over the branches and on the trunks, then that creates a real three-dimensional feel to our tree. And that's always something that we're trying to do. And remember, because you're watching this double time, if you'd like to watch me draw it at real time, you can use that cog icon to slow this down to half speed. So at this point now, I'm paying attention to the reference. I find with subjects such as this, it's so easy to get lost. And so keeping my finger on the point that I'm actually looking at means that I can save a lot of time wandering my eyes all over the place trying to realign with my reference and with what I'm actually drawing. I have that green tape on this pen because that indicates that it's a relatively new ink cartridge and nib, and therefore it's going to give me a more solid and continuous line than one that's more dried out. At some point it gets so dried out that I do something else with a new one, and that becomes the indicator that that's a half dried out one. But it's very handy because once we become aware of how the pen's handle and the lines come out when they're getting a bit dried out, we can actually use those pens deliberately to create a certain effect. Another good reason to stick to the one brand, whatever brand you use, is because we can start to fine-tune our appreciation of how the pens handle when they're no longer as full of ink as perhaps we'd like. And it's not just that we get more value out of them, but we can actually create different effects. Sometimes I'll use the dried out ones for, I won't call it underdrawing because it's all there at the end, but for my first marks and lines, because they do have a lighter effect and they do give me a little more room to move if they're not precisely placed when I do the final lines and marks. So my 10th point is the trunk edges. As I came down each side of that trunk, notice that just as with the branches, I didn't do two long lines, two long smooth straight lines coming down each side. I did a series of marks, a series of short marks that have little bulges in parts as they come down, depending on the tree, depending on the way the bark is, the distance again. It is a case always of looking at the reference to see what works for that particular tree from the distance we're observing it from. But whatever is the case, this tree doesn't have mirror smooth straight lines like some cylindrical copper pipe. So I don't want to create that impression by long straight lines down each side. If we want realism, then we need to capture the realistic effect of every part of our tree, from the leaves to the branches to the trunks to the shadows. We want to be paying attention to the visual effect, the way something looks, and not just the way that individual part looks, but the way it looks in the context of the wider tree. The things that are most obvious in our reference or in life, they're the things that we want to be most obvious in our drawing. And so we don't want to overdo them. We don't want to put so much detail in that there's simply so much ink on the paper. It highlights an area of our subject, of our scene, that is actually not that strongly highlighted in life. So keeping everything, all the marks in proportion to each other is another consideration. And that's one that I'll tell you for free. Of course, it's not particularly relevant to a tree only. It's the sort of point that applies to everything. So now I'm starting my hatching for the trunk and for the shadowed areas of the trunk. The sun's fairly high in the sky, which often does mean that the shadow goes quite a long way down the trunk. And so that's also one of the important things about doing the shadows on the branches and trunks. They do indicate the light direction, and we do want it to line up with the light direction on the foliage, on the canopies as well. So again, if we want a sense of realism, everything needs to come together in our scene, in our drawing, the way it does in life, or the way it did in life at this particular moment of the day. And it was around the middle of the day. Now, as well as doing the hatching, I'm also doing some lines on the trunk to indicate striations between various parts of the bark as the bark grows and swells and cracks and gets ready to start falling off in pieces. I don't want it to be too strong an effect because it's not a hugely visually significant effect in our reference. It doesn't jump out at you. And yet I don't want to give the impression that it's a smooth trunk because it's not. My 11th point is when we draw trees, never rush the ground level. Now, if the focus of the drawing is the tree, if the tree is the subject, the star, then we can draw a bit of context with a lighter, more loose, more gestural feel. And that doesn't just help the tree to feel closer, but it also makes it the star of the show. But giving a bit of context, besides simply being interesting and creating a sense of realism, does also make our tree look stronger, look more substantial. So we want to work hard not to overdo the context. And you'll notice with this particular tree, I've got a fence with a railway line behind. And on the other side of the railway line, there are some weedy mounds. And then there are some trees going back in various stages further back. And you'll notice that I had two trees in the distance. The one on the left has some leaves and the one on the right doesn't. But besides the fact that the one on the right doesn't have foliage, look at the difference between the two, because the one on the right is much further away than the one on the left. And this is all about changing our marks to help create the effect of distance, of depth. So here comes the one on the left. Sorry, I'm actually holding the finished drawing, so I was looking at that. I hadn't noticed that you don't have either of those trees yet to look at. So I've done the one on the left that I was talking about. In a moment, I'll do the one on the right. I hope you have a go drawing this. I'll post this reference photo on my channel community page for you. So why not have a go? Or you could just take a screenshot of the video and crop the photo. And now just playing around with the detail, working out how much to draw. This is where it's good to be restrained so we don't make it too dark. So you'll see now the right-hand tree that I was talking about, very light, very gestural. I want it to feel further back because it is further back than the one on the left, quite a bit so. I don't draw the tree on the right-hand side, that's a lot closer, partly to keep the video length down, but because this is actually a specimen tree drawing, I didn't want too much competition for this very large pine tree. And we're just about done. A very old tree, probably 150 years old, in a country New South Wales town at the start of winter, end of autumn this was. And the 12th point is don't forget to go over the whole thing and make final adjustments. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Look, I hope you found this helpful. These are the 12 points I use. Why not have a go yourself? Bye.